Welcome to the Wheelbarrow Profits Podcast, where you get multifamily investing made real. Learn from top players in the real estate investment world as they share their secrets with you and discover proven strategies on apartment investing that actually work. To learn more about Wheelbarrow Profits, visit jakeandgino.com, your one-stop shop for everything multifamily. Now to your hosts, Jake and Gino.
Hello, everybody. This is Jake Stenziano, host of the Wheelbarrow Profits Podcast, here with my co-host, the multifamily mentor, the coach, the chef, the father of six, the best-selling author, the G-Daddy, Gino Barbaro. Gino, how's it going?
Mr. Stenziano, I'm doing good today. Looking forward to this podcast, I got to tell you.
This is going to be a good one. But before we get started, we got to give a quick shout-out to our sponsor, CrowdStreet, who knows you don't have to know a guy to find a quality commercial real estate investment opportunity. Learn more at crowdstreet.com/wheelbarrow. And for visiting, they're nice guys, Gino. They're going to give you a free gift, so check them out. crowdstreet.com/wheelbarrow. Today's guest is Chris Voss. Chris is the founder and CEO of the Black Swan Group and author of Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as if your life depended on it. Chris has used his many years of experience in international crisis and high-stakes negotiations to develop a unique program and team that applies these globally proven techniques to the business world. Gino, I think we're getting our buy right on today. What do you think?
I think so, Jake. I like this.
You know, I usually don't, really do this on the show, but I love this book. I am so pumped for today's show, so it's going to be great. So without further ado, Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, fellas. It's a lot of fun to be here. I'm happy to be on.
Thanks.
Hey, please, for the folks that haven't read the book yet, please give them a little bit about your background and some of the hostage negotiations that you went through in your career.
Oh yeah, well, I was the FBI's lead international kidnapping negotiator. I was an FBI agent for 24 years in total and worked almost the entire time in counterterrorism and counter-kidnapping stuff, and became a hostage negotiator after I was on a SWAT team. And had to learn how to use Jedi mind tricks are the same thing as emotional intelligence. I mean, when you get into the stuff, it's crazy. It's insane how effective it is. And actually, there was an article that I read recently, because still in the security world, the harsh interrogation techniques versus rapport-based interviewing, was a battle that we fought back then, and use emotional intelligence is rapport-based interviewing. And they finally did a study on it, and the people in the study decreed that rapport-based interviewing was the closest thing possible to giving people truth serum that existed. Now, when you're in business negotiations, what do you need? You need the truth. Mm-hmm. And, and I have actually had in a real estate person that I was coaching on some of our techniques, talking about one very specific technique that we taught him. And she said, this is unlocking the floodgates of truth telling. Mm-hmm. So, I had to get people to tell the truth in my old job. Mm-hmm. And I had to get them to continue the real key is to keep them telling the truth voluntarily, almost against their own best interests. And a lot of people in negotiations feel like, telling you the truth is going to be against their best interest because they're afraid that you're going to hurt them. That's no different than my old arena as a hostage negotiator with the FBI. So, I had to learn this stuff. I learned it on a crisis hotline. I was a cop. I was in New York City for a long time. I did international kidnapping negotiations, as strange as it sounds, is actually just a commodities deal.
Yes.
When I give talks, I say, to us, it's a horrific event. To them, it's another day at the office. Mm-hmm. And in real estate, you probably run across no shortage of people on the other side of the table. You felt like we're acting like kidnappers.
Unreasonable, to say the least.
But Chris, let's go back. Why did you get into kidnapping? I mean, why did you get into the negotiation space?
Well, I was a SWAT guy. I like crisis response because I like situations where decisions have to be made and actions have to be taken. Mm-hmm. And long-term investigation, and not necessarily a decision has to be made now, but somebody's got somebody in a bank, or you're trying to hit a door at a drug dealer's hideout, or a biker gang's hideout. And I've been to those places with the SWAT team. We got to do stuff now. We got to make decisions now. And I enjoyed that. And I had a recurring knee injury. And so then instead of completely blowing my knee out, I I had it rebuilt twice. I thought, what else is in crisis response that I could still do this and I'd enjoy it. And we had hostage negotiators, and I figured, how hard could that be? I talk to people every day. And it ended up being a lot more interesting and more in-depth and actually rewarding than SWAT ever was. And so I got into it, and just one thing led to another, and I really enjoyed it, and got me all over the world.
How did you get educated? I mean, where do you go to learn about negotiation? Now there's more books, but I'm guessing back then when you started, there wasn't that much information out there, correct?
No, there wasn't. I mean, but fortunately, there are really two hostage negotiation schools on a planet that are renowned for being the best. One is the FBI's, and the other is Scotland Yard's. And I worked for the FBI, so that's where I got my initial training, at the FBI Academy at Quantico. And as it turned out, the FBI and Scotland Yard, I mean, we stole from each other liberally. When you write something for the government, you can't it's not copyrightable. So, I attended Scotland Yard training, and I looked up on a PowerPoint and saw our slides, because they attended our training, we attended their training, and we wanted to get better and better. So if you want to get good at it, you want to end up at both of those schools at some point in time.
Before we dive into the rest of your book and all, I want Jake to share with the audience why he recommended it to me, because Jake doesn't like to read. He's not a reader, but he found the book. I wanted him to give you the case study of our negotiation. Jake, give him the case study about, you don't have to talk about the vendor, but exactly how this book saved us thousands of bucks.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily a case study, but we have different groups that we work with that, maybe on a monthly subscription type thing, different softwares and things like that. So the classic is the bait and switch or price creep, whatever you want to call it. They get you in at a nice low price, and then a year later they say, oh, hey, you're going up 50% or whatever. And I literally just got done reading Chris's book, and I happened to get this email. Oh, your price is going from $220 to $250 a month. And this Never Split the Difference book, man, I'm telling you, it's great. I responded back, like no blink. I said, oh, by the way, I got another offer from your competitor, and they're offering it to me for $199 a month. So I'm sorry, but I'm just going to have to, walk away. Immediately, like they pull on the e-brake and they come back, and I think it was they were asking, well, who is it? And they were asking all these questions. I said, I just don't feel comfortable doing that, and I'd like to stay with you if you could match the price, because it's going to be less work for me to do. And so we didn't split the difference. I didn't come in and say, hey, I'm going to do it for $230, $240.
Yeah.
We went $20 less per month than we initially had, so we ended up getting it actually for these guys are going to come back, they're going to listen to this and come back and tell me to go fly a kite now. We'll probably kill it and shoot ourselves in the foot. But a long story short, we actually cut $20 a month out of our expenses versus going up $30, which they had proposed. And wasn't afraid, wasn't looking for the win-win, wasn't trying to get all warm and fuzzy. Said, hey, someone else is willing to do it for less. Didn't actually have that other quote, but we're not going to say that. But
I was excited when he told me that. I said, I got to pick the book up, and it really works, because I like the black shoes and the brown shoe story you have in there. If you create a win-win, who's winning, right? I mean, there's nobody really truly winning in this, and I think it's about feeling good. It's about not saying no. When I always get confused when I hear the no. They're not saying no to me. They're saying no to my offer, and I think people can't distinguish that fact. So I was excited when Jake said that, and I've been jumping on that. I've been reading.
Yeah. The other thing I loved is that every good negotiation starts with a no, right, Chris?
Yeah, well, yeah, because you can get pretty far pretty fast if you start getting rid of stuff that doesn't work. I mean, sometimes I use the analogy of, sculpting a statue. Like, you get rid of the stuff that doesn't work, and then suddenly if you decide what doesn't work, which is going to interfere with your implementation, that's really where you lose money. Then suddenly you're left, hey, you got a deal here because we got rid of all the bad stuff. The other thing I'd like to say, Jake, about your story, there are two things that jump out at me to that are just real simple things. First of all, you said no in a nice way. You didn't pound the table, you didn't call any names, you didn't make any threats. So being able to say no nicely, letting out no a little at a time, saying it in a nice way is a real important characteristic. The other thing you did, which I really liked, is, you said you'd still like to use the service. A lot of people, they want to denigrate the other side in order to try to get a better deal. Your stuff is not that good, knock it down. Well, you start insulting the other side to try to knock down a price. All you're going to do is, insult them.
Yep.
and back them into a corner, make them less likely to want to give you the deal. So you actually did two really positive things there. You were nicer, if you will, and you got a much better deal. You didn't have to be a jerk about it.
Nope. I like you.
So how do you dispel that notion of win-win? I mean, all these negotiating books are about the win-win. Can you talk a little bit about that? And I referenced that story with the shoes. If you want to tell that story, I love that story also.
Yeah, win-win, compromise. Let's take, I'm not sure if I'm right. We're not sure if you're right. So let's make each other feel good. And the example that we use is, I got this great gray suit, and I don't know whether or not I want to wear black shoes or brown shoes with it. I think I should wear black. You think I should wear brown. So, let's do a win-win here, compromise. I'll wear one black, one brown. And, the other classic example is it's so open to interpretation. And I'll bring up something that's a hot button issue in the United States today. But it's a result of trying to meet in the middle. Colin Kaepernick taking a knee. He originally was sitting out the national anthem. And he met with a veteran, I believe it was a Green Beret, and their compromise, try to meet in the middle, find middle ground so he could be more respectful, was to take a knee, because the Green Beret said, at our fallen comrades' gravesides, to show respect, we take knees. So Kaepernick, and I still think that he's a guy who's unhappy. He's trying to find his way. He's a kid. He's
young. That's right. Mm-hmm.
He originally started to take a knee to be more respectful, and look at how that compromise has been misinterpreted. Like, compromise, nobody's happy with that. Nobody on either side is happy, and that's what compromise runs such a risk in being completely misinterpreted by everybody, so that none of the original intent is lost. And it's just so dangerous to compromiser to try to find middle ground, or I don't know, you don't know, let's do a little of each, and you end up destroying both sides' ideas completely. And I can give you a bunch more examples, but compromise, split, and the difference meeting in the middle is such a bad idea, because it is so open to interpretation problems and implementation problems.
So why do you think implement? So why do you think people do that then? Why do you think they go to split the difference? Why?
Well, I think the intent is good, and to be successful, you have to start with good intent. Like, everybody's got the stuff that your mother drilled into you as a kid. You got your mom's voice in your head, and I would say to my mom when I was a kid, "Well, Mom, I intended to do well," and we go, "Around the house, paved with good intentions." That's the voice in my head, and you do have to have your heart in the right place to start with. But then it's laziness. I'm tired. I don't know what to do. Let's just meet in the middle and call it a day. It's when actually you should take a break and get some energy, sleep on it, come up with better ideas in the morning. But or people's egos. I don't want to give in entirely. I feel like I'm giving in, so I got to get something. There was a business negotiation I heard about recently. Two companies merged, and they had through the merger they had the opportunity to buy this wonderful facility that would house their headquarters and a brand new training facility. They're going to get a commercial property at like 20%. And the CEO of one of the companies, who's much more traditionally, said, "Oh my God, this looks so expensive. It violates our traditional values. If we buy this, we'll offend our customers. They'll think we're spending too much money on us in too nice of a facility."
Does anyone really think like that?
Yeah, right. The other CEO is like, you got to be kidding me! You're crazy. I mean, this is too good of a deal. We're going to save $400 million. And so, what did they do as a compromise? They kept their headquarters in the old building. They went ahead and took the new building for their training facility, and consequently, it's costing them more money.
Yes.
And the CEO that wanted to move into the new facility is still so upset about it as a number two. He's going to leave the company over this bad decision, this meeting in the middle. It's going to tear the company apart.
Wow.
I guess walking away sometimes is a better solution. If you can't, yeah.
walking away, or like, what you did earlier, how can you say no nicely? How can you say, look, this just doesn't work, instead of saying, that's a horrible idea?
I love that. In the book, you discussed a lot of the keys to becoming an effective negotiator. Some of them are preparation, emotions, reading body language. Can you lay out a couple of those keys for a good negotiator?
Yeah, well, the first one, which really plays to what we're talking about right now, is just be a little bit more open that the other side might have a good idea. There's a saying that we love: never be so sure of what you want that you wouldn't take something better. Well, to start with, you got to be open that the other side may come up with something that you really like. The art of negotiation is letting the other side have your way. Get them talking. Don't be so sure of your data that you can't get the other side talking, and maybe get them tease something out in the conversation. So that's being willing to listen. Not being so sure that you got to go first, and let it play out a little bit. The indirect route is actually probably the quickest route. Don't go diving in sure that of the outcome, because then you have blinders on. I mean, those are some of the starts. And a lot of people are just absolutely horrified at letting the other side go first. Be open to letting the other side go first. They may say something that delights you, which then, if it's your idea or if it's their idea, you're not going to have any problem getting them to stick to it because it was their idea.
I like that. In the book, you discuss those three voices. Can you go through those three voices? I love that. I mean, I love that part of the book.
All right, so
I want to hear from you too. This is really cool.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. All right, so first of all, the hostage negotiator's voice, is the late night FM DJ.
Wearing you down, huh?
Now that actually, I mean, each one of these is a Jedi mind trick. And so the Jedi mind trick of the first one is, you got mirror neurons in your brain. And when I use that tone of voice, and your mirror neurons trigger involuntarily. So before I've even finished that sentence, I've actually literally reached into your brain with my tone of voice and started to shut your brain down. And it gives you the feeling that there's nowhere to go.
I might pass out in my chair right now.
Yeah, hypnotists use that voice. But, and it's a good voice for maybe about 10 to 25% of the negotiation time. When the other side's upset, you got to calm them down, because involuntarily you're calming them down. The other thing, too, is it gives the other side, when you've got a term that there's no movement on, you say it in that voice. Like my company, we do contracts. We're always getting work for hire clauses. We don't do work for hire because that gives the other side our intellectual property. I mean, literally, you'd have to offer me $500 million to get me to do work for hire, because all we have is our intellectual property. You're taking our company. So we don't even argue over that. I get them on the phone and I just say, we don't do work for hire.
What's the response at that point?
Well, great question, because it's also, you want to think 3 moves ahead, no more than 3, but 3. So the very next response I need to get them to say voluntarily is, we'll try to take it out. Now, if I ask them to take it out and they say, I'll try, we all know what "I'll try" means. That's like when your wife says, honey, could you be home by 7? Because it's really important, because my in-laws, my family's coming over. You say, I'll try. You can't stand your in-laws and you have attention to me there. So when you ask someone and they say, I'll try, it ain't happening. But when they say unsolicited, and that's what I'm trying to get the other side to do, to say, we'll go to our lawyers and I'll try to get it taken out. If it's their idea, it's got to be their idea. Now they lose face if they don't get it done. I can't suggest it. I don't like making suggestions of outcomes at a table. I want you to suggest them, because you're going to do them if you suggest it.
That's right. Yes.
So I got to trigger that response without asking, because I also am staying away from reciprocity. Every ask triggers an obligation. I'm staying out of that game.
Yep.
I had, with kidnappers, we had to get kidnappers to do stuff without triggering an obligation on our side, like proof of life, because we risk bad faith negotiations. And in kidnapping, bad faith negotiations gets people killed. In the business world, bad faith negotiations kills the deal, and also nobody wants to deal with you again.
Yep.
So, I don't do bad faith.
Chris, would that be sort of like guys put stuff in contracts like red herrings, where they put stuffs in, they know they're going to get taken out. Do you take it out, and all of a sudden, hey, you took that out, I want something. So slick guys will do that. I think it's unethical, but I'm sure a lot of guys out there do that. That's what you're sort of talking about, correct?
Yeah, that an awful lot of that is the case.
Okay.
And we get to the point where on those, because I got a contract the other day that I hate it when lawyers do contracts, because
Do you hate lawyers or hate contracts?
You're talking to the right guys on this one, that's for sure.
I was quoting Shakespeare. What was it? One of the Shakespeare plays. He said, "First we kill all the lawyers." I apologize, lawyers, but you guys, you know what you do. So we don't even negotiate over those clauses without even asking. We just go ahead and take that stuff out.
Okay.
Because I don't want to ask to get it taken out, because there's a reciprocity. If I say, "Hey, you guys got to take this out," exactly like what you said, they say, "Okay, well, we took it out because you asked. Now, they're going to ask me in return." So we don't even ask anymore. We get that contract. We say, "Send it to us in a Word document. We're just going to make changes." But all right, so getting back to the clause that we don't like, as soon as I get you to suggest that you're going to take it out, then you're going to call me back when you get it done, or you're not going to call me back because you're going to be embarrassed. And that's why we use that tone of voice, and we don't make an ask. We just simply, I state a fact. It's just a fact. And I don't follow it on with, if you guys don't do this, we don't have a deal, or this is a deal breaker. The clear, plain truth fact is we don't do work for hire. And I just say it in a way that you got to know that there's no movement on this. I'm not trying to make you feel bad, call your names, get your blood pressure up. Just completely the opposite.
And that's always going to blow the deal up, because people are going to feel like, I can't work with this person because he's crazy. Yep.
Yeah, and here's the big difference between hostage negotiation and business negotiation. Business negotiations are far more emotional.
I believe it.
That since I've been coaching.
Egos kill deals, right?
Yep.
The amount of name calling and angry responses in business negotiations is 10 times higher than with kidnappers and terrorists. And you know why? Because we use the late night FM DJ voice and people don't get upset.
Yeah.
And we listen to the other side too. It's crazy how fast a deal will progress, not slow down, but progress. If I take the time to listen, we're going to move through every deal has 3 phases, and we're going to move through those 3 phases faster than they're used to moving, because I'm listening, and we're going to get to the heart of the matter really fast. All right, so
yeah,
the voices. You want me to do the voices?
Well, we still
right?
got 2. We got positive and playful and assertive here.
Yeah, all right. So the assertive, and again, I'm not doing political commentary, but the assertive is a Donald Trump guy, and that's my natural born type. I'm a natural born assertive, and I might say, we don't do work for hire, and I think I'm just being direct and honest. We don't do work for hire, but my tone of voice makes it sound like I'm the words that are unspoken are, "You idiot."
Yes, right away. It's totally different. You could say the same thing what happened in this latest scandal. He said something in a tone of voice and maybe didn't say it properly, and he maybe should have used a different tone of voice. I totally understand. That makes total sense to me.
Yeah, and those of us that are assertives, and the world breaks up into thirds. So a third of you are like me. You're natural born assertive. We will if you just think of yourself as just direct and honest, and that's all I ever describe myself as, direct and honest. And I saw about maybe a year or so ago, Ivanka Trump said, my dad is not harsh, he's just direct and honest. But I would ask you, what's the real difference between Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump? Donald Trump's direct and honest. Ronald Reagan said the same stuff with a smile.
He was he was nice about it, right?
He was an actor, bro. That's the thing. He know how to play in emotions.
The delivery is key.
Yes.
Like Donald Trump, President Trump. His favorite phrase from his show, The Apprentice, is "You're fired." Ronald Reagan fired every air traffic controller in the United States in one fell swoop. I guarantee you that Donald Trump is still jealous of him firing that many people at once. And who got more stuff done? Just with an adaptation, which gets us to the third voice. Reagan was a playful guy. Mm-hmm. He just smiled when he spoke. In both of his presidential debates, with I think with Carter, he went, "There you go again."
The classic Reagan line, right?
Yeah, and then with Mondale, Mondale tried to bring up his age, and Reagan cracked a joke that tore Mondale apart. Mondale said something about how old Reagan was, and Reagan says, "Well, I knew age was going to be a topic here, and people didn't want me to bring it up, and I can't help bring up the youth and inexperience of my opponent."
He was ready for that, right?
Yeah, he's smiling, he's cracking jokes, and really it's only as different as the smile when you speak, because that gets us back to the mirror neurons. Your brain is up to 31% more effective in a positive frame of mind. So actually, if you smile,
yes,
you trigger a chemical change in your brain and you make yourself smarter, which is also why I don't ever remember hearing Ronald Reagan get caught off guard.
He always seemed to be in control, right?
No matter what happened, the guy never got rattled. He'd smile, he'd crack a joke, I don't remember one, and I'm telling you, because by keeping himself in a good mood, he was actually smarter. Now, the other thing that it does is, you actually want your opponent, your counterpart on the other side of the table to be smarter too. You smile at that guy or gal, they're thinking more clearly, they like you more, and it gets back to they're more likely to throw something on the table that benefits you voluntarily because they liked you. And so the strategic advantages there are huge.
Mm-hmm. So you talk about two techniques in the book also, if you could dive into them real quick: mirroring and labeling. Can you go into both of those techniques?
The mirror is a Jedi mind trick, man. I love that one. Mirror is just repeating the last 1 to 3 words of what someone has just said. Now, we've all learned mirroring to be, I got to mirror their body language.
Yes.
I got to mirror their tone of voice. I got to mirror, if they put his hand to his chin, I got to put my hand to my chin. It's not that. It is not that. The hostage negotiator's mirror is just the last 1 to 3 words, or when you get really good at it, you pick out 1 to 3 words from in the middle of what they've just said. And if you were going to mirror me right now, you'd say, in the middle of what they just said?
In the middle of what they just said.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now I'm smiling at you.
And then I'd say, yeah, well, it doesn't have to actually be in the end. It, could come from something in the middle that you wanted to talk more about, but you wanted to trigger a longer response.
Oh, so we wanted a longer response.
You wanted a longer response. You wanted not just a longer response, but in different words.
So he's training me to be a Jedi right now, Gene. I'm a Jedi in training right now.
Where's the lightsaber, bro? You got the lightsaber there?
I do have my Aragorn sword in the closet right now, so I can get that out.
Actually the different words is a more important part, because if we're talking about something and you say to me, what did you mean by that? Which isn't a bad question, but there's a real good chance I act like an American overseas and I'll just say the same thing over again with only louder. And expect you to understand. But when you mirror me, you've also told me that you got the exact words that I used and you need different words. And so I will reword it without feeling forced. I'll feel like it was my idea to reword it. I'll go into much more depth. I got one client of ours mirrors the other side's terms and positions every single time, because he says when they reword it, it's going to tell me how soft or how firm the term is. And he loves mirrors. I mean, and actually what he likes to do before he goes into a negotiations, if he's got people on his side of the table, he's going to say, before we go in there, watch me repeat their words. It's called a mirror. And watch the Jedi mind trick, because he's a real smart guy and he loves to show off.
That's a recipe for disaster for us, right? Wow.
Well, he'll tell his team what he's going to do, and they'll sit there and they'll watch him work this magic in the deal, and they'll be blown away by it. So it's the
Have you
mirror.
guys ever seen Super Troopers?
I've never, no.
You never saw the movie Super Troopers? There's
Nope.
one where the state police officer, they have a joke where they run up to the side of the car and they do this game called Repeat. And it made me think of it. Anyways, getting off point here. But.
It'll work. Yeah, it'll work though, right?
Yeah.
It'll work.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's great.
So those are mirrors, man, and they're super simple. They're actually we teach. It's one of the first things we teach because people feel really awkward if they haven't done it before.
Oh yeah.
And I got look, you got to get over this awkward stuff, and the only way to do it is to actually do it. You know, if you imagine that the other side is going to get mad, you'll stop yourself. So.
Mm-hmm.
Keep
We
smiling
make
and just
them
do it, right, Chris?
Yeah, just do it. Yeah. And so you wanted to, you asked me about labels too?
Yes, labeling, yeah.
Man, that's the other one. And actually, label is a sentence that starts out with, it's a verbal observation. It seems, it sounds, it looks. You seem, you sound, you look. It's in a hostage negotiation, we call it emotion labels. We just call them labels because we label everything. And the funny thing about labels is, actually, I didn't think when I first came out into the business world, it feels like it when I first came out, when I first, came in from the cold, from the spy world. I didn't think labels were actually going to be that applicable. They are actually, you can make an entire deal with labels. They're the single most powerful tool that we have in a whole toolkit. I mean, it's insane. And it's the one where I've had a lot of clients say that's what we use to unlock the floodgates of truth-telling. Because as a negotiator, you're supposed to, whoa, look at that. There we go, apologize. As a negotiator, what you in any business deal, you got to get information. And we all know that. So we think the way to get information is to ask questions. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Because when you ask a question, you automatically put the other side on their guard. Some people hesitate for a moment. Our analysts who naturally talk in a late night FM DJ voice, we all know people who have voices that'll put us to sleep. They want to wait 2 days before they think things through, before they answer a question. Whereas a label gets them to respond nearly instantaneously because there's something about the format. I've looked at the brain science. It's actually designed to get you to, I'll use a label to get you to think instead of make you think. It triggers contemplation. If I say look, it seems like you've really been thinking about this. That comes into your brain. It hits your prefrontal cortex. Your brain is like a team. The different parts, they all work together, which is why emotions are always present because, the caveman part of the brain is always looped in. And so if I say to you, look, it seems like you've given this a lot of thought, you're going to say, yeah, this is what I've been thinking about. And you're going to lay it all out.
They just get into it, huh? They just respond, I bet.
Right. As opposed to I could say, look, what are you thinking here? You'll be like, I don't know. And you'll hesitate. But if instead of asking you what you're thinking, I'll say, it seems like you are thinking, or it seems like you have an objection.
There's almost nowhere to go. You kind of put them in a box and force a response without giving them a second to get back on their heels.
Yeah.
It's really, that's cool.
And they don't know it.
Give me another example of a label, because that one is great, and I just want
to... a business example would be great. I mean...
Well, a great thing, especially like if somebody's caught you with something that's completely off guard, that makes no sense, and you actually need a couple of moments, and you got to dig into it. And maybe it's probably something really negative that makes no sense. You just say, wow, it sounds like you got a good reason for saying that. And you will be stunned at not only how much information you get, but especially if it's negative, if they're mad at you, how it takes all the wind out of their sails.
He just took him out at the knees, Gino, right there with that.
Jake, we're going through this right now. I mean, I don't want to go through the contract, but we got surprised with a certain clause in this contract that our lawyer dug out, and we could have used this technique by saying, wow, it seems like this thing is really worth more to you, we could have used this. This is excellent. I wish I had known this a week ago, and we could have used this tactic, and we could have, because we don't know the reason why they didn't include it in the contract. We don't know the reason why they want to hold on to this certain element. It doesn't make any sense to us. It doesn't kill the deal to us, but a regular business guy wants to be right. We don't want to be right. We just want to do the deal. If we don't have it included in the deal, it's not the end of the world, but at least if they give it to us, it's great. But if they don't, but if we use this label technique, Jake, it would have been amazing to use that. I love that. That is awesome. That is great. Wow.
Well, and that circumstance is going to come back around at you again too, which is why.
That's
right. Any good label. I mean, write it down, keep it in the back pocket, because you're going to have an opportunity to use it in the future.
And this is a skill. I mean, this is negotiating this way is a skill. The more you do it, the more you put it into practice, the better you're going to get at it. And I'll even give an example. Last night, I got a price back on something that I didn't like so much, and I probably subconsciously learned it from Chris's book, but I did it, like you said, I said it in a nice way. I just am not comfortable with this. I thought it was going to be a lot less, so I'm just going to have to pass. Thank you so much, though. And immediately I got another response. I got another response saying, let me have my partner look at it. I may have missed something.
Yeah, because you didn't back him into a corner. That's the other thing. I mean, you say no, but say it nice.
Yeah, and keep it open for, maybe I can't do it here, but give them the opportunity to come back and say, hey, let's take another look at this.
Yeah, exactly right.
So,
exactly.
Chris, what has shifted though? Like from years ago, everyone thought the staunch negotiator was a tough guy, the Russian wants it. So what has shifted from being from that persona to now being the quote unquote nice guy or trying to give them an out? How has that shifted?
The sad part is in the broader world, I don't think the perception has shifted. I think a lot of people think you got to be a tough guy in negotiations. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, the good thing is now is that emotional intelligence is being recognized as being essential more and more in business. You Google emotional intelligence in business, and they'll say things like IQ gets you hired, EQ gets you fired. You look at data. The top performers in every industry at every level are always the people with the most emotional intelligence. It's so common out there. We didn't realize that 5 years ago that wasn't the case. When I first started teaching in business schools in 2009, I had to make the case that emotions had a role in business at all. And I'd have to go out of my way to try to make that case. You have to some degree now, but not as much. And I think there are more books out there just recognizing emotional intelligence. So the follow-on question has got to be then, all right, so if emotional intelligence is important, how does being a jerk play into that?
I actually have another question to follow up on that. If it's so important, being a jerk doesn't work, I'll just cut to the chase. How do you improve your emotional intelligence? How do you train it? How do you get better at it? It's remarkably easy once you start putting in the effort.
There's anecdotal data out there that says that it takes 3 weeks to adopt a skill. I was listening to a Blue Angel talk about learning skills. The Blue Angels, I believe, are the Air Force team that fly in formation. I think they're Air Force. They might be Navy. Which then, of course, I just insulted both services. But
we think you guys are great, though, right? You do.
Whoever you guys are, you guys rock. But and that guy was saying like it takes 67 repetitions to groove a skill into your brain. So emotional intelligence, because of the way the brain is wired, the first couple times you try it, you're building new neural synapses. And it feels horrible. It feels awkward.
Awkward, yes.
But and that's why now there's a graphic I'm showing a lot of people of the learning curve, because the learning curve is initially steep, but with a little bit of effort, suddenly you get over the hump and it takes off and you go really fast. What people don't realize when you're learning a skill, they think it's always going to feel that bad, and that's why they give up. Mm-hmm. And, just get through 67 repetitions and you'll get over to the other side and you will take off and suddenly it'll be really easy. And yeah, it's going to take about 3 weeks. But at that point in time, that's why they call it unconscious competence. It gets drilled into your bones. But the first part is so awkward and painful, that's what stops people. That's why we've got the capacity, but so few people actually built it.
I want to ask you one more technique in there. I like tactical empathy, but I wanted you to see if you could talk about the accusation audit and how that works.
Yeah, man, I love that. I mean, we're addicted to that. So the accusations audit is, and this scares people. But let me think of all the names you might call me, and then let me essentially be self-effacing and bring all that stuff up first. And what I do is I completely take the wind out of the sails. Like if I'm a bigger company and you're a smaller company, I might guess that I might look like a bully, even if we haven't talked before. If I'm a company if I'm a bigger player in the market than you are, you're going to be intimidated. And if you're intimidated, you're going to feel like I'm a bully. So I'm going to start out by saying, like, I'm sure we seem like bullies. I'm sure we seem like we push people around. And I'm sure that we seem like we don't watch out for the little guy. And that will take all those fears away. And fears are the biggest obstacles to deals. Game is not right? The unknown. The fear of the unknown. Absolutely. So I'm just going to go ahead and get that stuff out of the way. And suddenly, you're not going to know, but I did a Jedi mind trick. I completely changed your mindset. You're now suddenly open because I just diffused all your obstacles. Mm-hmm. And you can, I don't got to be a genius if I'm a bigger player in the market to guess that you might think I'm a bully. And most of what it is, it's the opposite of, in any negotiation, anything you want to deny. Well, actually, your emotional intelligence is working well and it's picking up an obstacle. So instead of denying it, label it. Never, never, never deny negatives. But when I label it, I never said I agree that I am a bully. I said it seems like I might look like a bully. That's me showing.
You diffused it because you isolated it and said, I understand this is the perception, but it's not. We agree on that, right? Go on, moving on to the next one, right?
Yeah. It's just a real simple way, a real fast, quick way to diffuse it. That's how hostage negotiators.
And actually, building rapport, right, Chris? That's actually, to me, that's a rapport builder.
Rapport-based influence is that true serum. Rapport is what makes deals, and rapport is what gets you. Once you drop your guard, now you start putting your cards on the table. The cards you're hiding, you put them on a table. Now we're talking. Now we can.
Gino, we're in the Himalayas right now with the guru. I just want you to know that.
Yeah, I know. This is. I see Jake writing.
I got gray in the beard, a little bit here too.
I see Jake writing. I mean, Jake likes to take notes, but not as much as he's rattling off. There's so many more things in the book. I wrote a book review on this, so I mean, everyone's got to go to Jake and Gino. The book review will outline all the stuff if you're too lazy to read. I have one more question before the short answer. I guess everyone always wants to know, what's the best negotiating tip that you can give, like the best, that'll just, I guess, wrap this whole thing up.
Just get good at repeating what the other side has said to you. Before you've had your say, just try repeating it back. Just try to confirm. Get good at getting confirmations by repeating. I mean, that tiny little skill, you'd be shocked at how much people will like dealing with you. And then also, you kind of be shocked at how much they suddenly agreed to that you never had to ask.
That's great. I love that.
Repeating labels. Those are the quick hitters, right?
Quick hitters. Absolutely, yeah.
See, he just did it. Quick hitters.
Did you just marry me? How dare you?
He got me. Guys, before we get to the short answer, I want to give one more plug here for CrowdStreet. And CrowdStreet believes that investors of all sizes should have access to quality commercial real estate investment opportunities. The CrowdStreet marketplace features vetted commercial real estate investment offerings from over 100 sponsors from across the United States. Download a free copy of their commercial real estate investing guide at crowdstreet.com/wheelbarrow. Before we get into the short answer section here, I just want the listeners to know we had a few of the Rich Dad folks on recently, and these guys are tossing your book around, Chris. So I mean that's you get start to get in those types of groups. I mean that shows how good the book is and how much influence it's had, because I mean these guys have from marketing to big commercial real estate deals to education. I mean they have a network around them of some really big hitters. So I think that speaks volumes to it.
Jake, I I always say books are great with actionable content, and I've only asked maybe 7 or 8 things, and there's so much more left in the book. We're talking about tactical empathy. We're talking about so many other strategies in the book, and the stories about being at a door in Harlem, talking to drug dealers. I mean, all the stories in there are really cool. So there's so much more content in this book that you can dive into, and I just think it's a book you can pick up, read 3 or 4 times, and you'll learn something else as you read it.
Totally.
Thanks, fellas. Thanks. Yeah, it's a readable book.
With actionable, things that you can do. Because a lot of these books are up in the clouds, and man, the philosophy of this, that, and the other thing. But it's like, well, how do I do it? This actually shows you this is what you do. So that's why we think that we love stuff like that. Chris, what is your best habit for success? Because we get some really cool guys on the show, and I'm always trying to learn from people that have done more and done great things. What is something that you do on a weekly or daily basis that has separated you from some guys that maybe have not achieved the same kind of level of success as you?
I got to tell you something. I'm into reading these days. I mean, I saw where Mark Cuban is reading 3 hours a day. Warren Buffett is reading a certain amount of time every day. I'm seeing over and over and over again, people are reading their way into prosperity. I mean, just ridiculous. And so I am trying to read. And the other thing that I like now too, the sort of, I'll call the Elon Musk technique. His brother said that he always tried to read a couple of books at the same time, different books, because he was looking for universal principles. So I'll have several books going at once. And if I see, an idea that you two wrote about in the book about how they formed the band, and they're a business and they're a team, and I'll see the same kind of ideas in Eric Barker's book, Barking Up the Wrong Tree. I'm like, all right, here's some universal ideas that I can apply in my regular life. So I'm reading a lot, and I'm reading multiple books simultaneously.
It's funny that you bring that up, because I ask this question to everyone that comes on the show. And I think part of the reason I'm doing it for myself, I'm selfish here. I'm looking at how to improve myself. But the things that come up all the time, I get up early and I get shit done, and I read a lot. Those have got to be the most common things that come up. And the folks that come on the show have had great, really successful people. So interesting, good stuff.
I agree with that.
Going from the FBI to business, what was your biggest mistake in the transition of going from the FBI world into the business world?
Not realizing that even though I'm really good at negotiation, there's a lot of other aspects to it. There's overlap between negotiation and marketing, but they're not the same thing. There's overlap between negotiation and running a business or understanding your business. They're not the same thing. And I think in business, the opposite is true. Most people who are successful business people think they're good negotiators, and they're actually succeeding despite their negotiation skills. So I've had to get a greater appreciation of how I've had to round out my game, because as powerful as negotiation is, there are other aspects to being in business that negotiation just doesn't quite cover.
I thought he was going to say that business people were sissies. Because he was talking before about how these hostage guys would not get so emotional, but you see these business guys throwing things and getting these anyways, we've been there. We touched on books. What is a book that you'd like to recommend to the audience?
Well, Eric Barker's book, Barking Up the Wrong Tree. If he'd have written that while I was still teaching in business school, it would have been assigned reading. It's an entertaining book, and he's great at distilling ideas and clarifying just success on all levels. I mean, I love Eric's book. It's fantastic.
Hey, what's that yellow and red one up there behind you for the YouTube folks? Can we see that one? Can we see that one?
Never split the difference here. It's
Who wrote
right
that
here.
one? Yeah, that one. Show the book, man. Show the book.
Yes.
Well, the other thing that let me point out, too, is like the name under mine, Tal Raz.
Yeah.
Now, and that's why the book is so readable. Tal is he is a co-author of another of the best business books ever written, Never Eat Alone.
I've heard of it.
And that's the ultimate book on networking.
Yeah.
Networking, Keith Ferrazzi, fantastic. And I used to carry that book around because I enjoyed reading that book because it was so readable and actionable, like what you said. And so if you see a book that's been written by Tal Raz, a business book, I would be I wouldn't read fiction because Tall's not a fiction writer. But that's why the book is so real. It's Tall structured a great book for us. And that's why another reason why it's done so well actually around the world.
Nice.
Great.
What project are you excited about right now?
There's three, actually. We're getting ready to get some more get into customer service more. Because, people that are handling customer service, they're like battered children. And
guilty of it because, man, these service companies drive me nuts when I call on the phone. So I totally get that.
Yeah, I mean, they yelled at all day long every day, and they're beat up so bad. I mean, they're crisis hotline workers.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of it is the customers calling customer service. I mean, they had a dream, and they're hoping that the person on the other end of the line, as upset as they are, can restore their dream, whatever it is. And there was a leading company in customer service that called us the other day, and they said, your book is perfect for us. We got to retrain all our people with it.
Yeah, that's right. That's a great idea. Love
We're going to dig into customer service. We're digging into real estate now, much more these days, both commercial and residential real estate, because the profile of somebody who's trying to buy a building, whether it's commercial or residential, in real estate, is the exact profile of the family of a kidnap victim. As crazy as it is.
We need help, Gino. We need help, brother.
And, because what does either commercial or residential property represent but somebody's hopes and dreams for the future? And that's what hostage negotiators know how to do. And we're navigating that and with crazy, ridiculous results.
That's awesome.
So we're into both of those areas much more heavily now. And off the top of my head, I know there's a third area we're getting ready to dive into in much more depth. I just can't think of what it is. But those two projects right now are really cool. I'm really into those.
That's awesome. What's the best way, because there's going to be a bunch of people listening to this, how should they get a hold of you if they want to work with you or your company?
All right, so thanks for asking that. We put out a weekly negotiation newsletter that not only has a nice, short, digestible article in it, but it's the gateway to everything that we do. We have training announcements in there. There are new training products that we have, and it leads people also right straight to our website, which is blackswanltd.com. But the newsletter, the name of it is The Edge, and a real simple way to subscribe to it is to send a text message, FBI Empathy, all one word. Don't let your spell check autocorrect and put a space in there. But FBI Empathy, it's not case sensitive, it could be lowercase, and send that to the number 22828. It's 22828, and that'll sign you up for the newsletter. And it is the gateway to everything that we do. And it's a real simple. It doesn't take you 20 minutes to get through the newsletter. 3 minutes when you look at it, find something you could use, and then get announcements on our training, and also it links straight to the website.
Gino, when we needed this the most? When we did not get that cable contract that should have came to us. We did a 281 unit apartment deal a few years ago, and the cable contract should be prorated. They'll say they get $50,000 up front, but they got to carry this cable company for 15 years, etc. These guys would not budge on it. We could not break through to say, guys, you got $50,000 up front, committed to this contract for 15 years. We're assuming half the contract. $25,000's coming to us. It's a fair thing to do. Do what's right. We could not break through on that for the, it wasn't worth it to ruin the deal over $25,000, but it still chaps my ass to this day that we did not.
The problem is a want and a need. It's not that we wanted this deal. We needed this deal. We made it too emotional for ourselves, and we didn't want to lose over.
It was our
something
future, like
that.
you said. He pegged us, man. We're done. We're sitting down.
And he knew that, and he knew that. But Jake, before we go, I just want to go around on this customer service thing. Anyone out there in customer service? I just had a mind paradigm shift. Customer service is a negotiation, basically. You're calling up to complain.
Imagine the guy who's on DJ on the customer service line.
That you talk, you talk about mirroring back to him, mirroring him, listening to what Is that what I'm hearing? Is that you're upset about your thing? All those techniques he's got in that book are going to be so applicable to customer service. You're diffusing an issue, and if you can listen to the guy yelling, you'll have a different mindset. And if you have a smile on your face while you're on the phone, the guy will pick that up in your voice. I mean, it's so amazing. I mean, that because everyone sucks.
That's why I call it Jedi mind tricks.
Yeah, exactly. These are not the droids that you were looking for.
That is great. Well, Chris, I really appreciate the call today. It was amazing. It was an awesome call. I think if anybody has any doubts about it, pick up the book and then take that next step. Go visit the website, and I think really appreciate spending the time with you today.
Thanks, fellas. This was a fun conversation. I really enjoyed it.
We trust that you enjoy the Wheelbarrow Profits podcast. Visit jakeandgino.com, your one-stop shop for everything multifamily. See you next time when Jake and Gino share more of their investing secrets with you.